Welcome to another deep dive. We always try to go deep on a specific topic. And, well, today's topic is pretty huge. It's the Children's Manifesto for the Future of AI.
Yeah, this is a really different kind of document. We're not talking about a bunch of tech experts or, industry analysts trying to predict the future.
Right.
This is about the kids, the teenagers, the ones who will actually grow up in a world shaped by AI. It's like a direct line to their hopes and their fears about what's coming.
It really is. And, it came out of this amazing event, the first ever Children's AI Summit held in the UK, February 4th, 2025.
Oh, right. Over in London. That's where about 150 children and teenagers, they were between 8 and 18 years old, they got together to really talk about AIs.
It's incredible. And the organizers, they were a pretty impressive group. You had the Alan Turing Institute, the Queen Mary University of London. They were the main organizers.
Yeah, some big names backing this up.
Oh, yeah. And we can't forget the support they had from, like, the Lego Group, Elevate Great, and EY. I mean, that shows how seriously they took this.
It does.
But even more than that, this manifesto wasn't just a product of that one day, that summit. Yeah. Almost 200 young people participated in competitions and workshops leading up to the event. So what we have here, it's not just like a quick snapshot,
No.
It's like a carefully crafted collection of thoughts, concerns, dreams. It's all coming straight from those who will actually live in the future AI is creating.
And it's not just, some whimsical thoughts. This document has some real weight to it. Ethan, a 16-year-old, put it very clearly in the introduction to the manifesto.
I love this quote.
"You'll write the laws," he said, "but we'll bear the cost. Hear us. Engage with us. And remember, AI may be artificial, but the consequences of your choices are all too real."
That really sets the tone, doesn't it?
It does. It's a call to action.
It is. And the way this manifesto is laid out, I mean, it gives us a really clear path to explore these ideas.
Right.
They start with their demands for world leaders. That's
It is, which is great. It's good to see them being bold. And then it breaks down their thoughts and concerns in 3 main areas. They have education, health, safety and well-being, and then the environment.
Right.
And then they wrap it up with, like, this catch-all section are other concerns about AI. So there's a lot to unpack there.
There is. So let's jump into education. This is where I think it gets really interesting because, these young people, they're already experiencing AI in their classrooms.
Yeah, and their views on it are, like, surprisingly nuanced. There's this definite excitement about the potential for AI to improve learning.
Right.
But they're also very cautious about making sure it's used responsibly and ethically. Asenur, she's 13 years old. She kind of sums it up well when she says she dreams of a world where AI gives every child the chance to learn and reach their full potential, no matter who they are or where they come from.
It's like this idea of leveling the playing field.
Exactly. But then you have Lily, who's 12, and she's really worried about, misuse. Like, what if students start using AI to cheat or just, get easy answers without actually learning anything?
It's a valid concern.
And then you have Daya and Joseph, both 17, and their message to world leaders is all about making sure fairness, strong ethical principles, and really giving young people a say in how AI is used. Those have to be the top priorities.
I'm really liking that emphasis on giving young people a voice. So it sounds like they're not totally against AI in education, but it's more about, like, using it strategically and thoughtfully.
Yeah, exactly. They have some really specific ideas for how AI could actually make education better.
Like what?
Well, one of the most powerful ideas is the potential for AI tutors. I mean, think about it. There are 244 million children worldwide who don't have access to education.
Yeah, that's a staggering number.
Right. And that includes kids in, like, war zones, conflict areas, places where traditional schooling just isn't possible.
Yeah, absolutely.
Arushi, who's 15, she imagines these personalized AI tutors that could help those children. Like, each child could have a tutor that adapts to their learning style, helps them build confidence, keeps them engaged. And the beauty of it is, it wouldn't matter where they are.
It's like bringing education to the most remote and challenging places.
Exactly. Mary Claire, who's 14, she even describes AI as a potential lifeline for children in, like, Ukraine or Gaza, places where, traditional education is disrupted.
Wow, that's a powerful image. A lifeline through AI.
It really is.
So,
and it's not just about reaching those who are currently excluded. They also see AI as a way to break down language barriers. So Laura, a 17-year-old, she points out that AI could translate learning materials into different languages, so everyone can access the same knowledge regardless of their native tongue.
So you're talking about global access to education, right?
Precisely. It's about using AI to create a more inclusive and equitable learning environment for everyone.
Well,
Another big area is support for children with different learning needs. So you have kids like Jane, Phoenix, Teo, Anaya, and Evie Marie. They're all around 9 or 10 years old. And they see AI as a way to provide personalized help for things like autism, ADHD, dyslexia, even just language challenges. It's about adapting the learning experience to the individual child.
that's really interesting, like using AI to tailor education to each child's specific needs.
Yeah. And Denaya, she's 17, she even has this idea for an AI platform that breaks down complex topics, step by step, and uses techniques like active recall.
Active recall.
It's like it helps you remember things better by making you actively think about the information. It's really clever how they're thinking about not just what AI can deliver, but how it can make the learning process more effective and engaging.
Yeah. So there's this consistent emphasis on using AI to enhance learning, to make it better, to make it more accessible. It's not about replacing human teachers altogether.
Exactly. There's a very strong message in the manifesto that AI should be a tool to support teachers, not to replace them. Like, there's this group of 9 and 10-year-olds, Jane, Phoenix, Teo, and Anaya. They mention that, yeah, there are teachers in their school who are curious about AI and want to use it, but they also sense some worry, about what it means for their jobs. And I get it, it's a natural concern.
Right.
But then you have Alexander, Ashvika, Avar, and Mustafa. They're all 11, and they make it super clear that they believe AI should assist with teaching, but not become the teacher.
They still see that human element as essential.
Totally. Alexander even goes a step further. Like, he stresses the importance of reassuring teachers that their jobs are safe. He points out that teachers bring so much more to the classroom than just information. They motivate, they understand, they build confidence in their students.
Yeah, that's a really crucial point. It's about the human connection and the emotional support that good teachers provide. It's not something you can easily replicate with AI.
Exactly. And beyond just using AI in education, the manifesto really highlights the need for better education about AI itself.
Right, so teaching kids not just how to use the tools, but to understand the technology and its implications.
Exactly. Like Alexander, Ashwika, Avar, and Mustafa, they believe computer classes should focus on safe and ethical use of AI. Teach kids how to spot fake news, deep fakes, all of that.
That's so important in today's world where misinformation spreads so easily online.
It is. And Laura, she suggests that governments should invest in training teachers so they can integrate AI into the curriculum effectively, starting from primary school.
Starting early.
Right from the beginning. And then Ishrit, who's 13, makes a really interesting point that AI is often viewed negatively. Like, people see it as a tool for cheating or taking shortcuts.
Yeah.
So Ishrit argues that by including AI in both student and adult education, we can change that perception, help people see the positive uses of AI and learn how to use it responsibly.
So it's about shifting the narrative from fear and distrust to understanding and responsible use.
Exactly.
Now, alongside these hopes, the children also express some pretty significant concerns about AI in education.
Oh, yeah. They're definitely not naive about the potential downsides.
What are some of their main worries?
Well, a major one is that relying too heavily on AI could actually hinder the development of really important learning skills. Like, what if kids become so dependent on AI for answers that they don't develop their critical thinking skills or problem-solving abilities?
Right.
It's a valid concern.
Yeah.
And Alexander, Ashvika, Avar, and Mustafa, they all voice this worry. Ananya, she's 13. She even specifically worries that getting quick answers from AI could actually stifle our imagination.
It's like if you don't have to struggle to find the answer, maybe you don't learn as much, right?
And there's a broader concern, too. Like Evie Marie, she's 9. She points out the danger of becoming too reliant on technology in general, not just AI, for both fun and learning. It's like, are we losing some of our natural curiosity and problem-solving abilities if we have a screen in front of us all the time?
That's a really important point.
And then Laura, she brings up the issue of unequal access. If using AI tools requires a good internet connection and, up-to-date devices,
Right.
it could make existing inequalities even worse. Some kids would be left behind simply because they don't have the same access to technology.
It's like we could be widening the digital divide instead of closing it.
Exactly. So it's a delicate balance, right?
It is. It's about harnessing the benefits of AI without losing sight of those potential pitfalls. Now let's move on to the next key area: health, safety, and well-being.
Okay, so in this section, there's a really strong sense of hope that AI can be used to make life safer and happier, particularly for children.
And how do they imagine AI being used to achieve this? Give us some specifics.
Well, Arishi, she says that if we develop AI with empathy and purpose, really thinking about how it can help people,
Hmm,
we can create a future where every child can thrive. They can learn, grow, and just be happy.
that's a lovely vision. What kind of concrete ideas do they have for how AI could improve their health, safety, and well-being?
Well, they have some really creative and practical ideas. For online safety, Chekwoob, who's 16, she suggests using AI to monitor online activity, social media, looking for signs of things like cyberbullying, anxiety, even depression.
That's interesting, using AI to identify those kinds of warning signs early on.
Exactly. And for safety in the real world, Finley, who's 12, he has this idea called RAF. It stands for Risk Aversion AI.
Risk aversion.
Yeah, he imagines combining this with like a device that could help people, especially those with sensory impairments, to be more aware of potential dangers.
Well, that's fascinating. So, like, helping people navigate their surroundings more safely.
Exactly. He even mentions how it could help reduce car accidents.
That's a great application.
And then there's Tejas, he's 11. He has this idea for an app called Lifesaver.
Lifesaver, okay.
It could automatically detect if a child is in danger, like an accident or something, and then alert emergency services. It could even monitor, like, their health data.
That's pretty amazing, using AI to predict and respond to emergencies.
Yeah, it's really innovative stuff. And when it comes to healthcare more broadly, Asiner, she believes AI has the potential to revolutionize diagnosis.
So quicker, more accurate diagnosis of illnesses.
Yeah. And there's a general sense of optimism about better medicines and advancements in healthcare overall.
Right.
And then you have Marco, who's 11, and Chekwoob. They envision personalized AI companions, for people with special needs or those who are just feeling lonely.
Oh, that's an interesting idea, like AI companions to provide emotional support or companionship.
Yeah, exactly. Like a friend that's always there for you.
Hmm.
And Sihan, who's 10, he suggests AI could communicate with children who are feeling down or who have conditions that make communication difficult, like autism, ADHD, or dyslexia.
That's really powerful, using AI to bridge those communication gaps.
It is. And Ella, who's 11, she has a broader vision. She sees AI helping in hospitals,
Mm.
delivering medicines, assisting older people with public transport, even providing first aid in emergencies or in conflict zones.
Wow, that's thinking big picture.
And Kishi, Cernya, and Lizzie, they're 15 and 16, they highlight how AI could reach patients in remote areas with mental health services. And Grace, who's 11, she even suggests AI could help with first aid for children who get injured.
It's amazing how these kids are thinking about using AI to help people in so many different situations.
Yeah. And they're also thinking about those in really vulnerable situations. Like, they specifically talk about using AI to provide first aid to refugees or people in war zones where human doctors can't reach them.
That's a really compelling use case. So they really see AI as a tool for both physical and mental well-being, especially in situations where access to traditional healthcare is limited.
Absolutely. But just like with education, they have some concerns too.
Oh yeah, we have to talk about the concerns. So what are some of their worries regarding AI in the realm of health, safety, and well-being?
One of the big ones is this idea that becoming too reliant on AI could negatively affect our real-world relationships.
Oh, interesting. So instead of bringing people together, AI could actually isolate them further.
That's the worry. Chekwoob even goes so far as to suggest putting a daily limit on how much we interact with AI companions, to try to prevent this from happening.
That's an interesting solution, limiting our exposure to AI.
Yeah. And then Frederick, he's 16, he has a really thoughtful concern about how constantly interacting with AI could actually harm our social development.
How so?
Well, think about it. AI systems, they're often designed to cater to our individual preferences, right?
Right, they're personalized.
Exactly. But Frederick worries that this could make us more self-centered, less empathetic. He's worried that we might lose the ability to connect with other people in a genuine way, leading to a loneliness epidemic.
Wow, that's a really profound thought.
It is. It's a reminder that human connection is essential, and we can't let technology replace that.
Absolutely. What other concerns did they bring up?
Well, the impact of AI on social media was another big one.
Oh, yeah, that's huge. I mean, we're already seeing concerns about social media addiction and its impact on mental health.
Exactly. And Chekwoob and Dania, they both worry about the potential for AI to make this even worse.
Oh, so.
Well, imagine AI systems that are designed to keep you scrolling, to keep you engaged, even if it's not good for you.
Right. AI that's optimized for engagement, not necessarily well-being.
Exactly. And that could lead to even more addiction, sleep problems, all the negative effects we're already seeing.
It's like a double-edged sword.
If,
AI could make social media more addictive, but it could also be used to help people manage their social media use in a healthier way.
right. It really comes down to how we design and regulate these systems. And Checkwoob, she suggests having age restrictions or special child accounts for AI-driven platforms.
So kind of like protecting children from the potentially harmful aspects of AI-powered social media.
Yeah. And Dania, she links cyberbullying and excessive screen time to mood swings, poor school performance, and just feeling isolated. She even goes so far as to suggest a worldwide limit on how much time children can spend on social media.
Wow, that's a bold suggestion. A global limit on screen time.
It is. But it shows how seriously they're taking these concerns.
It does. So it's clear that they see both the incredible potential of AI for good and these very real dangers that we need to be aware of and address.
Absolutely.
Let's move on to the third key area they discussed, the environment.
Yeah, this section is interesting because it really showcases their passion for using AI to protect our planet.
What are some of their specific hopes and concerns regarding AI and the environment?
There's this widespread desire to leverage AI for scientific research and finding solutions to the climate crisis.
Okay, like using AI to better understand the problem and develop solutions.
Exactly. So Asener, she imagines AI analyzing huge amounts of data to help us fight climate change, like making energy use more efficient, reducing waste, even predicting natural disasters.
Yeah, AI could definitely play a role in analyzing climate data and developing predictive models.
Right. And Aaliyah, she's 14, she proposes a system that would use satellite data, sensors, and climate models to monitor the health of our ecosystems and guide conservation efforts.
It's amazing to think how AI could help us track and protect endangered species, monitor deforestation and things like that.
Absolutely. And it's not just about monitoring. There's a real push for action. Arhan, Roddy, Joshua, and Julian, they're between 9 and 11 years old. They call on governments to invest in green technology innovations.
Green tech, like what specifically?
Well, they mention things like AI systems powered by renewable energy, technologies that capture carbon, basically making sure AI is part of the solution to climate change.
So it's not just about using AI to understand the problem, but to actually develop and deploy technologies that reduce our environmental impact.
Exactly. But they also recognize that AI itself has an environmental footprint.
Right, you can't just ignore that.
No. They're very aware of the fact that AI systems require a lot of energy and water to operate. Kartik, who's 14, he specifically calls for a reduction in the water usage of AI.
So making AI systems more water efficient.
Right. And Ishri, she points out that even something as simple as generating a single image with AI can produce a surprising amount of carbon emissions.
Wow, I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, it's like using as much energy as charging your phone.
So the message is, if we want to use AI to combat climate change, we also need to make sure that AI itself is as sustainable as possible.
Absolutely. It's about using AI responsibly and sustainably.
Okay, so we've explored their thoughts on education, health, safety, well-being, and the environment. But there's a whole other section in the manifesto. Are other concerns about AI? This is where they get into some of the broader societal impacts, right?
Yeah, this section really gets to the heart of their anxieties about the future.
What are some of the big issues they raise?
One of the biggest concerns is bias in AI. The idea that if an AI system is trained on biased data, it's going to produce biased results.
Right, so if the data used to train the AI reflects existing prejudices, then the AI will perpetuate those prejudices.
Exactly. And Tejas, he points out that this could lead to AI systems that are unfair or even racist. He calls for really actively identifying and removing that kind of biased data.
It's like garbage in, garbage out.
Right. You have to be really careful about the data that you're using to train these systems. And Ananya, she worries about how biased data can lead to harmful stereotypes and inaccurate portrayals of different groups. She stresses the need to use diverse data and to constantly test and audit these AI systems to make sure they're not perpetuating bias.
That's so important.
It is. And Ishrit, she gives this really powerful example of how AI used in security systems like facial recognition could unfairly target people with darker skin tones
Oh, wow.
because of biases in the training data. So that's a huge concern. It's not just about being politically correct. It's about making sure AI doesn't reinforce existing inequalities and injustices.
Absolutely. So there's this real concern about algorithmic bias
Yeah,
and the potential for AI to perpetuate discrimination if we're not careful. What
exactly.
other concerns do they raise?
Well, there's a lot of worry about the role of big business in AI development. The idea that these large companies might prioritize profit over people.
Right, that they might not always have the best interests of society at heart.
Exactly. And then there's this huge issue of unequal access to AI. Easoner, she dreams of a world where all children can benefit from AI, but, that's not the reality right now.
Yeah, access to technology is a major issue. Not everyone has a smartphone or a good internet connection.
Right. And Daya and Joseph, they call for policies that ensure everyone. Exactly. It's about making sure AI is used to create a more just and equitable world, not to further concentrate wealth and power.
What about privacy? That's always a big concern with AI.
Yeah, the kids are definitely worried about that. Mariah, who's 10, she calls for stronger ethical laws around AI to protect their personal information.
So stronger regulations to safeguard our data.
Exactly. And Ananya, she points out that children might not even realize when they're sharing sensitive information while using AI tools.
Right. They might not fully understand the implications of what they're sharing.
Exactly. So there's this need to educate them about data privacy and to get proper consent.
And Arushi suggests stricter rules for social media companies that are collecting and selling children's data.
Right. Like putting limits on what they can collect and how they can use it.
hmm And Laura points out that kids are more vulnerable to having their data misused or being targeted by scams because they might not be as aware of the risks.
Right. So there's this sense of urgency, like we need to do more to protect children in this digital landscape.
Absolutely. What about their thoughts on AI-generated content? That's another area that's been in the news a lot lately.
Yeah, fake content is a major concern for them.
I can imagine. It's hard enough for adults to distinguish between what's real and what's fake online these days.
Exactly. And for children, it's even more challenging. Alexander, Ashvika, Avar, and Mustafa, they suggest that we should prevent AI from generating images or videos of public figures, to combat the spread of misinformation.
That's an interesting idea, like limiting the ability of AI to create those kinds of deepfakes.
Right. And Ananya, she worries that young people might not be able to tell the difference between what's real and what's AI generated and could end up believing things that aren't true. She even suggests that AI should offer suggestions, like ideas to consider, rather than complete solutions, and should clearly indicate how accurate its information is.
So more like a helpful guide than a definitive answer.
Right. It's about transparency and making sure people understand the limitations of AI.
Absolutely. What about security concerns around AI systems themselves?
Yeah, security is definitely on their minds.
I mean, we've seen some high-profile data breaches and hacks lately. It's a legitimate concern.
Absolutely. And the kids are worried about, things like hacking and criminals misusing their personal information. They also point out that many current AI systems are not really designed with children's safety in mind.
Right, like they might be exposed to inappropriate content or targeted by predators.
Exactly. Hugo, he puts it really simply. Current AI is not fit for young people.
It's a pretty blunt assessment.
It is, but it's important to remember that kids often see things more clearly than adults. They're not afraid to point out the obvious. And Ethan, he calls for laws to prevent the misuse of personal data, requiring explicit consent and giving people the right to access and delete their information.
So really putting control back in the hands of the individual.
Yeah, and Arushi, she also emphasizes the need for strong data security measures to protect children, making sure that training data doesn't fall into the wrong hands.
Right. So it's not just about protecting data from external threats,
Yeah.
but also from being misused by the very companies developing the AI systems.
Exactly.
It's a lot to think about. Were there any concerns about how AI might impact jobs and employment in the future?
Oh, yeah, unemployment is definitely a worry. Freddie, he's concerned that if AI takes over many jobs, it will be much harder for young people to find work, and I get it. It's a legitimate fear.
Absolutely. I mean, it's not just young people. A lot of adults are worried about the same thing.
Right. It's this fear of being replaced by machines. And Hugo, he states pretty directly that AI is taking over jobs.
It's a valid concern. It's
Yeah.
something that policymakers and economists are grappling with right now.
It is, and the kids are already thinking about it.
They are. It's their future after all.
Yeah.
Now, there's this really powerful statement in the manifesto. Children are not listened to.
Yeah, that one really hit me hard. I mean, here you have this whole initiative, this manifesto that came directly from children, and yet they still feel like their voices aren't being heard.
Right, like they're not being taken seriously in the conversation about AI, even though it will impact their lives more than anyone else's.
Exactly. And that's why this manifesto is so important. It's a way for them to make their voices heard, to demand a seat at the table.
It's their way of saying, hey, we're here, we matter, and we have something to say about the future we want to live in.
Exactly.
And finally, they address the need for transparency in AI. What are their thoughts on that?
They want to know how these decisions are being made. They want to understand the technology that will shape their future.
Oh.
Ethan, he calls for ethical guidelines for AI development, things like mandating transparency and regular audits.
So making sure that AI systems are accountable and that their inner workings are open to scrutiny?
Exactly. And Ishrat, she points out that a lot of people, particularly children, don't really understand how AI is affecting things like healthcare and education. She proposes a policy where the impact of AI is made clear to everyone.
So making AI more understandable and accessible to the general public.
Right. And both Esener and Ishrat plead with adults to consider the needs of children and involve them in discussions about AI development. And Ethan, he reiterates the need for young people to be actively engaged in shaping AI policy.
So it's not just about listening to children, it's about actively involving them in the decision-making process.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that they have a stake in this future, and they deserve to have a say in how it unfolds.
It's about empowering them to be active participants in shaping the world they want to live in.
Exactly.
Well, this deep dive has given us a glimpse into the incredible insights and concerns expressed in the Children's Manifesto for the Future of AI.
Yeah, we've just scratched the surface.
We've explored their hopes for AI to be this force for good in education and health, in protecting our planet. But we've also heard their very real anxieties about bias, privacy, unequal access, safety, and the ethical implications of this incredibly powerful technology.
And what really stands out, at least for me, is that they are demanding to be heard. They want to be involved in shaping this future that's coming, a future that will inevitably be theirs to navigate.
Absolutely. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I think we should leave our listeners with a question inspired by Ethan, and that feeling that children's voices are often overlooked.
Yeah, I like this.
How often are the viewpoints of young people truly taken into account when we're making decisions about technologies that will impact their lives so profoundly?
I think that's such a crucial question to ponder.
What role can different stakeholders play in making sure those voices are not just heard, but actually shape the direction of AI development? And that includes, policymakers, developers, educators, parents.
Everyone, really.
Everyone. It's a conversation we need to be having.
We do. Because the future of AI is not just about algorithms and data, it's about people. And it's about the kind of world we want to create.